Hi everyone. Sorry, I went into Tony's group for a little bit, which was kind of funny. I joined in on the shooting. You guys are feel free to take off your video. I don't know about you guys, but it's weird talking to like an empty screen, and we have a much smaller group. So by the end, I want to do a bunch of Q&A and just get a little bit more personable because it gets tough. I feel like if we're just talking the whole time, it's nice to hear from you all and see your faces. We're a water polo community. It's nice to connect. So I'm going to kind of get into it just so we can have a ton of time at the end to answer your guys' questions and get into detail about a lot of more things. So this session is to talk about space. To me, this is the most important part of water polo, and I feel like it's not talked about enough. And this is really how I see the game. And I think it's a really great way as coaches, and this is honestly how I learned growing up, and even now kind of how I see the game. It was a really great way that my coaches kind of instilled a water polo IQ in me and helped me see, no worries, Steph, helped me see the game in a different way. So I kind of wanted to start it out. I'm not going to share my screen all too much. I do want to show some video clips, which bear with me. I'm not a coach, so I don't usually clip videos. So I feel your guys' pain. And this is why I'm so excited. 6-8, we've partnered with AWS. And so we're going to get some video, which hopefully will make our lives a lot easier. But I don't know if you guys remember back in the day when Guy Baker was the ODP coach. He had created a grid for the pool. So I might look for some, visual. If you guys remember, nod yes. Does anybody remember the ODP grid from Guy Baker? Right. So it was the left lane. I can kind of share my screen here just to show you guys. So, right, he had, when he drew it up and would talk and teach, he had the right lane, the center lane, the left lane, right? And then if you're on the attack, you're going from defense to offense. You had create in the first third, the middle third was your read, and the last third was attack, right? And this was actually a great way of learning growing up, at least in the ODP system of, okay, here's a grid. In the beginning, I should be trying to create. In the middle, I want to be reading. At the end, I want to attack. But to be honest, for me personally, I couldn't, I'm not a box player, right? Water polo is not black and white. There is a lot of gray area. And so for me, I kind of took it as how can we take this grid into, looking at it a bit more as the why and not just this black and white. So 3 things I really want to get across. I took kind of that Guy Baker create, read, attack, and I applied it to what taught me a water polo IQ, and that was space. So 1, can I create space? 2, can I read space? And 3, can I attack that space? Okay, and this is something that you do on offense. So I'll give you a quick example, right? I'm a drive player, so I'll use a drive. Can I create space by doing a cutoff move, right? Once I've created that space, I don't go to attack right away. I read it. Is there enough room for me to fill? Is it open, right? Should I go left? Should I go right? So I read the space in front of me. And this also gives a pause, which I'm going to show in a video, to your teammates to see, whoa, like Maggie just created this space. Taking that pause to let everybody read it allows you to make a better decision, and now allows your teammates to kind of see what's going on, right? And then the third phase is attack that space, whether it's with, maybe I get open on the drive and the pass, we score, or maybe it's an ejection, or maybe it's just to fill space to occupy my player. Okay, so although it seems so simple, that to me applies to all aspects in the game. On defense as well, can you create the space as a defender, right? I'm a 2-meter defender as well. So what's important to me, can I create the space I need? I don't want to be close on defense, right? Space on offense, that's what you want so you can attack it. Space on defense, that's what the offense wants, right? So making sure they don't get close to you, right? So creating that space, and then read, where do I need to go attack? What is it? Do I need to come behind? Do I need to press, right? So a lot of these scenarios in a game, like if teaching your athletes this is so important. Can you create space? Do you read the space? And can you attack the space? And I don't know what age groups you guys coach, but I grew up playing all different sports, and I'm sure you guys teach kids, and hopefully we can retain them. Like we were talking about, you know, that's a struggle with our sport, is retaining athletes. And one way to do that is relating water polo to other sports so that these athletes can see, well, okay, like I play basketball and there's these basketball components in water polo. That's so cool, right? So simple things. Basketball, mostly everybody knows, if you played basketball, you know how to box out. That is the actual way to cut somebody off in water polo, right? They in box out, you can't face them face to face, like as a referee. This is the exact, you know, technical way to cut somebody off in water polo and to create space, right? Boxing somebody out, back, you know, you're facing the ball, your back is to the player, you're learning about spatial awareness, like how to feel athletes behind you, right? So even using land, let your kids play basketball for a little bit, like teach them how to box out. Soccer, right? Learning about passing lanes and how to fill space and lead people with the ball, right? So let your kids play soccer or have like a fun day where you're playing these other sports and can teach them about spatial awareness. Then do it on land, because as coaches, it's really difficult to coach from a pool deck when you can't physically move someone's body, right? So I think it's so important as coaches, like go through things on land so you can physically move their body and create that muscle memory on land. And then thirdly, remind kids of triangles. And I'm going to show you guys, I don't know if you guys have ever thought of the game as a bunch of triangles, but I think in video sessions or on land, drawing up these triangles is going to be really important so that they can see space and see spatial awareness. Before I go into any videos, if you guys want to unmute, do you guys have any like quick questions kind of just based on that? No? Okay,
so far, so good.
cool. Yeah. I don't know. I hope that's a helpful way to think about it. And then I'm going to show you guys just some videos using kind of where I see the game a little bit. So let me share my screen with all of you guys. And we'll make sure I'll have time at the end as well. Okay, so this one, we're looking at a counterattack, and I'm not going to use volume so I can talk over it. So this is the USA women's team playing against Holland in February before quarantine. Literally, we got back and it was like, get home. So last time I played a game. And what I want you guys to notice is I kind of made some pauses of things to notice, okay? So first thing, this kind of shows a bit about the lanes that Tony was talking about and just filling space, right? And I'm going to talk through this and then we can do questions after. But simply, where's the space and where do I need to fill, right? Which I'm sure you guys teach as well as much as possible. Okay, so something I want you guys to watch in this counterattack is we're going to clog up the space a little bit in the middle. But here, we're going to notice that where is the empty space, okay? So we have our center coming up the back line. I'm here with the ball, right? I have a ton of space in front of me. So I'm creating the space. I read the space that I can fill it, and I'm going to attack it by moving forward. The empty space is in this lower quadrant, okay? And so instead of filling here or stopping where I am, what do we want to do, right? We see the space, let's attack the space, right? Same thing we're doing here. There's all this open space here, and so we're filling the space and kind of creating more space by filling it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you guys, right, is kind of as a passer, teaching your kids about space is going to allow them to see the game a bit better, develop this water polo IQ, right? So I'm here with the ball. If I see that space open, I mean, if my teammates are doing the right thing, I know that somebody is going to fill that space, right? So my vision immediately is looking, where is the open space? Something is about to develop. I need to prepare myself, right? Then we're going to enter that triangle phase, okay? So because my teammate filled this space, I have this vision of our triangle, okay? So our center got positioned towards the open space, right? So same thing as a center. Where's the open space? Can I face that open space, right? Then I look at this triangle, right? We're all connected. And when you see it like this, it seems so simple. It's like, oh, of course I would make this pass, right? How can we find the triangles of the game that kind of teach your athletes how to anticipate what might happen? Because anticipation is so important, right? And I want to pass it to a triangle to these two players that also have this triangle advantage with the goal, right? So by seeing this, you're kind of seeing step one and step two. My triangle with these two players and these two players with the goal. Okay. From there, we move on to the pass, right? Same thing. It's a game of space. Where is the open space? Can Mel, our center, create that space, which she does. She sees it. It's in front of the cage. There's about 4 or 5 meters there. That's the open space. That's where we want to attack, right? So quickly, we make that pass there. And I'm going to go back a little bit. We make that pass there. And as a center, and this is something that's so important to teach in your groups, is all the time we just want to pick up the ball and shoot. But here, once again, starting to teach your kids, where's the open space? The open space is to her right. So is she going to spin to her left? Is she going to step straight towards the goal? If we were watching this, right, she does do it correct because she's Mel, right? But she sees the open space is right to her right. And so she takes that space so she has more time to execute that play, right? So although it seems so simple, this game truly is about space. Now this next play is really simple as well. And this is a simple way to break down an M, okay? Once again, I'm going to talk space and triangles. And this is something I saw in what a lot of you guys are using are whiteboards, which is what I grew up using. But like these are things, give your kids a piece of paper, give your kids a whiteboard to draw this up. Ask them, hey, where's the triangle here? Where's the open space? If there's no open space, how can I create it? So here, we're in a simple M, okay, against Holland, who does this a lot. So you're learning things about the international level. Okay, so here, this is what I call a yo-yo. Tony calls it walk the dog. You guys will kind of understand as we go. But here as an athlete, I'm at 3, okay? I have open space to my left. Can I fill that open space? Because by filling that open space, can I draw my defender, right? And by doing that with the ball up in my hand, right, being a threat, so you need to fill this space in, a threatening way. But can I fill that space to now give my triangle more space for themselves, right? Offensively, we want space to be able to move with, create, read, attack, right? So can I attack this space, which I do? And now we see it's kind of like this 2-on-1, okay? So the open space is right in this circle. And, we have a lefty down here. Maybe it's a righty we fill. The more you work with your team, the more you can kind of figure out who should fill. We fill that space, and now we have this triangle, right? Doesn't have to be a perfect one, but this becomes your vision player, and this becomes your vision player, and we've created this triangle. So we've created passing lanes, and that's so important. I remember as a kid one time, my dad brought out a swim lane to just show, like, what is a passing lane, right? It's this line that we can use, and that's in soccer and basketball. You see it on dry land. And can I make that pass so it leads to a triangle that attacks the goal, okay? Then from here, luckily we score. All is great, all is good, which doesn't always happen, right? I'm going to show you guys one defensive video and then kind of answer some Q&As or even go back into questions specifically as well. So let me see, I think it's this one. So this is back from 2017. So this is back from 2017, okay? And, oopsies. So I just want to show how this applies to defense as well. Okay, so this is an after goal play. And what I want you guys first to notice is all of this open space here, okay? So on defense, similarly as an offense, it's a game of positioning. So I want to be on offense, I want to be between their goal and my player, right? And on defense, I want to be between my goal and the player. So there's a lot of open space here, so we need to get behind. And then here we notice this passing lane, this triangle, right? So Kylie needs to get into that passing lane, which we're going to see. And similarly, I'm just showcasing, here's the open space on defense. Can I fill that as a defender to make sure that I have the better positioning, right? And this is teaching your kids anticipation as well. Anticipation of, so there's open space, who's going to fill it? And then we notice, luckily for us, on offense, what do we want? We want space. We want to create space so that we can read it, so that we can attack it. So as defense, can we minimize space? This is great, right? This now, they can't do anything. One person can guard two, right? And so we've minimized their space. So from there, right, we start teaching kids about anticipation and being able to develop this IQ of what might happen. Okay, so now that this space is over in this corner is clogged up, where next is that open space for the offense? So now, as defenders, I'm saying, wow, okay, there's a ton of open space here. A drive might be happening, you know, a pick might happen. Somebody's going to post up. I'm starting to think of that, right? And this is something you can teach your kids just by watching a video just like this, right? So you'll notice Russia does exactly that. They try to fill that space. But what we do a good job of is protecting it, right? And let's say, you know, just for learning's sakes, this was down at the 2 meter line. The open space is now between 2 meters and 5. So the defense would want to be on this side, right? Does that make sense? But since the open space is behind between 4 meters, right, we want to protect that space and create this line. Okay, so same thing. If this line was down 2 or 3 meters, we'd want to get on the other side. Okay, so it's simply, and these are, you know, I put circles on a video. I don't know if you guys ever done this, but I thought that was kind of interesting to just showcase space, right? And same thing, the open space is here. So as defenders, we're looking back. They've created space. Now we're in a read space. We read that it's open, and so Aria ends up attacking that space and stealing the ball. Okay, so I have one more clip, but I'd rather, you know, talk to you guys a little bit more about that because I know it can get kind of confusing and I went through that quickly. We can kind of jump back in. But what I really want you guys to see are those steps, how it can apply to offense and defense, and how you can see that in just a simple 20-second clip, right? Of, okay, how can I create space on offense? How can I read it? Okay, and then how can I attack it? And how can I see that through triangles? You know, this allows you to see that whole grid, but now it's no longer black and white. It's changing at all times. It's all different types of triangles. It's all different sizes of space, right? And so trying to figure out how can I teach my athletes this, and that's going to help them develop their IQ, which ideally you want to learn first and, you know, instill in them because it's your vision, right? You're the ones who are seeing that open space, and kind of step stoning from there. So I have one more video, but do you guys have any questions specific to those 3 and just kind of that philosophy? And feel free to take yourself off mute to just talk as well. Tim, yeah, go ahead.
So big things I'm always looking at is the difference between the front line and the back line. Mm-hmm. Is there, like, I mean, is looking at that space, like I'm always looking like low in the shot clock, my top line to definitely be thinking about
to go.
Kind of forget about the, you know, get ready to go. And that back line, you know, in Illinois, there's a lot of those, you know, our goalies aren't as developed, and there's a lot of that play where there's a bounce off the crossbar and the player wants to come put it back in. We got to be aware of that. Yeah, sealing off. Is there, I mean, where you coach, like, is that step by step or reads or that's the balance. I like what you're saying about there, but I've always structure versus awareness is where I guess I was going there. How much were you guys coached by where you were in the counter versus just make a decision and go?
Right. So I think that's something too that you learn through habit. I've seen a lot of players who as kids were taught to never look back because they're a fast player. And so they were told like, hey, once it's 2 seconds, like you go. Right. But I think what's something that's really important, and you could kind of see it there, is can you read the space as a defender? So if I look back, if I'm on the top line, right, if I look back and that space as my defenders is covered, so maybe we're fronted, we're all in passing lanes, and more or less that space is covered by my defenders, my mindset now is anticipate the counter. because my team behind me, that back line, has, covered that space, has protected the space. But if I were to look back, for example, and see, like I just did, and let's say that line that I showed was at 3 meters or 4 meters, and there was like 6 meters of space in between us, my teammates have not protected, like a layout or a step out. I need to kind of help them and sandwich that space together. So then my mindset changes to, okay, I probably need to crash, or I need to stair step to help a teammate to help them fill space. So if that makes sense. So I think on the top line, you look back, and that's a good time to start teaching your athletes to read the situation. It's not necessarily at 5 seconds, we go. It's maybe at 5 seconds, can you look back and read, right? And that's where, like, as a coach, I think that's so important is, whether it's through a video session or dry land or in a counterattack example, of tell them maybe what are the possible reads. Like, whoa, Maggie has her hips down. She's getting beat on a drive. She needs help, right? How can we help her? Versus, and that means maybe I can't go on the counter quite yet, versus Maggie has good position. She's protected her space. Now I can kind of get into that counter opportunity and to anticipate. So I think you spend a bit more time in the read phase, if that makes sense, on that top line of reading the open space. And if your team has it covered, you go. If not, then that's the time to come back and help. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's another way. Like, how much is shot clock time? I'm always big on shot clock awareness, where, like, again, it's 7 or 8. Even if you're getting beat on a drive opposite the pool, like, they're not going to be able to create something in 4 seconds. We might as well, just, again, I've always.
Yeah, definitely. I think shot clock awareness is super important. And definitely, like, if there's 2 seconds left, there's less time to create. But I think, just remember too, like you said, there is always that opportunity of, like, they might shoot and now they have inside water and they have that rebound, right? So teaching the kids not just, hey, it's 3 seconds, go, but letting them linger in that why phase. Like, why am I going? Why am I countering at 3 seconds? Is it because I looked back and checked and it makes sense? Or is it because it's 3 seconds and I just want to go? So I think that's really important. Like, I always, shot clock, if you don't know the shot clock, you don't know the game. And depending on the time of the shot clock, I can be riskier, or maybe in the beginning I'm a little bit more safe. So I think for sure you're a little bit riskier in the end, but can you try to teach them the understanding, like the why of why at 5 seconds am I riskier? It's because I looked back and I read the situation, if that makes sense. Anybody else have a question right now?
I do, Maggie.
Yeah, go ahead.
I teach a lot of younger kids. So I have kids in 10 and unders, I have 12 and unders, 14 unders and 16 unders, and I'm in New York. So a lot of the kids are either they're finding about water polo really late, or they don't necessarily have the basic athletic skills that you would need to sort of start playing the game.
Right.
So how would you initially introduce sort of spatial awareness for the kids who, even with me introducing and comparing, hey, it's just like a basketball game. You've seen a basketball game. You see how they're surrounded by the key. You see that the area that's the center, like very basic sort of comparison so they understand it. But how would you introduce that to, I feel like the kids oftentimes get too spread out. So then you have all this water in front of you and you say, hey, but you're sitting at 7 meters. Why are we sitting at 7 meters? I want you guys to sit at 5 so that we can try attacking towards the goal and actually making something happen.
And that's where you can start teaching them the read and attack, right? Okay. They've created the space, and then you tell them, you're like, hey, can you score from 7 meters? How big is this triangle now? Like, this seems a little too big. Can I read that open space? And that's when you start teaching them that IQ, right? Of, wow, okay, this read phase, and that's what I was kind of saying about the counterattack, is really where that magic happens. And as you get more advanced, that read time goes from here to here. So, as a beginner, your read is like, hey, I'm at 7 meters. Whoa, there's so much space in front of me and no one's there. Maybe I should fill it. you know,
Right.
versus at the advanced level, because as a coach, you start showing them with lines or with drills, and even just telling them, like teaching them. Now as an advanced player, maybe as they're more experienced, that time goes from, hey, there's open space, like I'm going to fill it, right? So our job as coaches and mentors is to teach that read phase to be as intelligent as possible, but a quicker amount of time. And that's okay in the beginner phase, to stay in that read phase, like I was explaining, like this is the time to teach them that, so that they can kind of go through all the opportunities in their head, and then later on kind of pick what's best for them, right? Like I'm a mobile player, so I should move, versus a strength player maybe is going to like manipulate, you know, or like leg somebody out. But I would say, you know, some drills that are really important are keep away. So
Right.
keep away is a great skill and drill for spatial awareness. And start big. Start with crazy amounts of space so that it's almost silly. Like they're like, why am I doing this? Right? Then make it harder. Make the ball always stay dry. Then get smaller and smaller and smaller. And not only does this teach spatial awareness, so is there open space? Oh my gosh, when I'm in the middle of keep away, it is one of the hardest drills for me. Because in order to help my teammates have an easier life, my job as being kind of the center of keep away is to move into open space. If I move into open space, now it's an easier pass for my teammates. And ideally, since I'm now open in this open space, a defender's going to follow me. And now what have I done? I've created space by filling space. So I feel like I'm saying space so much, but that truly is
It's true.
the trick of the game. And it's not talked about enough. And like keep away is such an easy way to do that. And it teaches communication. So can you communicate space? Hey, watch behind you. You know, soccer always says like man on. We don't have that in water polo, right? Can be quick. Hey, watch your back. Look left, right? Can you as a coach help the players start almost communicating for one another to fill the space, see what space is open? And then I love doing triangle drills. So can you work on one side of the pool, 5-on-6, 6-on-5, right? That's going to teach spatial awareness for defenders. Stations, I think, are so important. Just teaching kids coming over their hips to hit somebody and come back to the zone. So where is that space? And learning how far can I go as an athlete? Like what's my physical ability? How much space can I cover, right? So I would say keep away at all levels and make it harder and harder. And you can teach these things. Fill space to create space, or create space by filling space. Like it's so crazy how those all kind of go together. And let them read, and maybe do it on dry land. Like do a game of keep away on dry land before they get in, you know?
Yeah. I mean, my 14 and unders and 16 and unders definitely get it. We do a lot of, you know, various two-man drops, I'm back, get 'em sort of situations, but it's definitely the challenge tends to be with the 10 and unders and 12 and unders, where you're trying to understand, like, this is the half court. This is where everyone's supposed to go.
Yeah,
Stay there.
That's another thing. Like when you guys are passing, one, that's in the walk phase. So pass as much as possible in twos as conditioning and ability for them to touch the ball as much as possible. But then instead of going right into shooting, like put them where they should be in a front court and have them pass with one ball and just say, hey, you're at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Show them where more or less they should be and have them pass there so that they're getting the spatial awareness of where should I be in a front court as a 12 and under. Maybe they can't pass all the way to 1 to 5, so they have to use 4 to get to 2, right? And just have them go in a circle. And I think that's something that goes unnoticed. So to help with the spatial awareness, you can do that in passing drills. Place them in front of the goal, like around the horn, right? And have a center. You can do that with 6-on-5 as well, instead of just passing, you know, in 2s or 3s. Start there and then kind of show them that spatial awareness when it's in a game situation. That makes sense. Awesome.
Thank you.
So we're going to answer more questions at the end. We're going to head back here, but thank you. That was really awesome. Hope you guys learned something
Thanks,
new.
Maggie.
Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you guys.